The Achaemenid Empire was a vast empire that extended eastward from the Zagros Mountains towards India. While Egypt was fighting against the Hyksos, nomadic tribes from the region north of the Caspian Sea were migrating into this area and even further into India. By the time the Assyrians established their empire, a second wave of these tribes had settled across the region between the Zagros and the Hindu Kush. These tribes were known as the Iranian peoples. The Iranian tribes, being nomadic, had a different way of life compared to settled farming communities. They valued a code of honor since they lacked formal law enforcement and courts. Their religious beliefs were also distinct, and over time, they began to distill their gods into a few universal principles. Zoroaster, a prominent figure who lived around 1000 BCE, played a significant role in shaping their religious ideas. For the Iranians, there was one supreme god, Ahura Mazda, the creator, who represented light, order, and truth, and governed the logic and structure of the world. Even those who did not actively follow Zoroastrianism were influenced by a culture that valued ethical principles, such as honesty and truthfulness. Among the Iranian tribes, some managed to gather other tribes under their leadership. One such tribe was the Medes, who established their capital at Ecbatana in the eastern Zagros Mountains and expanded their power. In 612 BCE, King Cyaxares of the Medes joined forces with the Chaldeans to conquer Nineveh, and they continued their expansion to the northwest. During a battle with the Lydians on the Indus River in 585 BCE, a solar eclipse occurred, which frightened both sides and led to a peace agreement. After Cyaxares' death, his son Astyages took over and ruled from 585 to 550 BCE. One of the regions that paid tribute to the Medes was Persia, located southeast of Ecbatana, beyond Elam. Persia was home to around 10 or 15 tribes, one of which was the Pasargadae. The leader of the Pasargadae tribe always came from the Achaemenid clan, and in 559 BCE, a new leader named Cyrus II, also known as Cyrus the Great, emerged. Cyrus would play a pivotal role in the formation of the Achaemenid Empire. Cyrus II, also known as Cyrus the Great, was determined to free the Persian tribes from the control of the Medes, led by his grandfather, Astyages. By 552 BCE, he united the Persian tribes into a federation and began a series of uprisings against the Medes. In 550 BCE, Cyrus confronted his grandfather in a showdown, and the Medes mutinied, joining Cyrus to march on Ecbatana, the Median capital. After his victory, Cyrus took on the title Shah, king, of Persia and established his capital in Pasargadae, named after his tribe. However, the empire he had inherited was vast and diverse, comprising numerous different peoples with their distinct cultures and histories. He faced challenges in managing cultural diversity, suspicion, and hostility. Lydia and Chaldean Babylon, who had agreements with the Medes, were wary of a Persian takeover. However, Cyrus managed to win over Lydia by surprising King Croesus with his unconventional tactics and capturing Sardis, the capital of Lydia, and an important center of commerce. Unlike other conquerors who would assert dominance through force, Cyrus believed in cooperation and sought to win over Babylon without resorting to violence. He used a propaganda campaign to exploit the unpopularity of Babylon's king, Nabonidus, presenting himself as a better ruler who would respect the city's traditions and gods. As a result, Babylon welcomed Cyrus with open gates and recognized his legitimate rule, seeing it as sanctioned by their own gods. Cyrus embraced multiculturalism, allowing the various peoples within his empire to continue practicing their own religions and customs. He facilitated the return of exiled Jews to Jerusalem and supported the building of a new temple, earning him praise in the Old Testament and establishing a buffer state against Egypt. Cyrus's vision of a diverse empire, where people were free to worship and live according to their own beliefs, marked a departure from the traditional conquest-centered rule of the River Valley civilizations. His approach to governance laid the foundation for enduring imperial peace and influenced how later empires sought stable rule. His multicultural approach demonstrated that cooperation and tolerance were essential for maintaining control over vast and diverse territories. After Cyrus the Great, his son Cambyses II succeeded him as the ruler of the Persian Empire. Cambyses added Egypt to the empire but faced a revolt back home, led by a Median priest claiming to be Cambyses' murdered brother. In the midst of the turmoil, Cambyses died on his way back, leaving the empire in a state of unrest. A distant relative and one of Cambyses' generals, Darius, took control and killed the pretender to the throne. However, uprisings erupted across the empire, and Darius found himself in the position of re-establishing Cyrus's conquests. Darius realized the need for efficient organization to maintain the vast empire. He divided it into 20 provinces known as satrapies, each governed by a centrally appointed satrap, often a relative of Darius. To prevent the satraps from gaining too much power, he appointed separate military commanders who reported directly to him. Imperial spies, called the King's Ears, kept tabs on both the satraps and military commanders and reported back to Darius through a network of roads and a postal service with horse stations spaced a day's travel apart. Darius introduced a new concept of tribute, treating it as tax rather than protection money. He used the collected tribute to finance various projects, including the building of a navy and extensive public works such as irrigation systems, roads, and a canal connecting the Nile and the Red Sea. He also established a common currency to facilitate trade and working in different regions of the empire. Darius sought to showcase the grandeur and diversity of his empire at Persepolis, the imperial capital. Here, he stored his wealth in a massive vault and displayed the artistic styles of various cultures within the empire, all within a Persian design framework. Persepolis embodied the idea of empire initially conceived by Cyrus. However, Darius seemed to have a complex about not belonging to Cyrus's branch of the Achaemenid clan and sought to surpass Cyrus's achievements. He adopted the title Shah or King of Kings to represent his elevated status. This title aligned with Cyrus's vision of a ruler who stood above all other kings and transcended the interests of any single community, symbolizing the unity of the empire. During the later rule of Darius I, the Persian Empire faced challenges in the Mediterranean region. In 499 BCE, there was a Greek revolt in Ionia, which Darius eventually suppressed. Seeking revenge for Athens' support of the rebels, Darius's fleet suffered a surprising defeat. To maintain the appearance of a strong empire, Darius needed to teach the Greeks a lesson. However, his attempts to raise taxes to fund a rearmament drive led to unrest, particularly in Egypt. Darius's son, Xerxes I, succeeded him and faced the task of restoring order in Egypt and addressing the Greek problem. Xerxes had even more to prove than his father and grandfather as a ruler. However, unlike them, Xerxes lacked cultural sensitivity. When tax increases sparked riots in Babylon, Xerxes responded harshly, leading to the city's destruction and the demise of its greatness. With ambitions to crush the Greeks, Xerxes used the gold from Babylon to assemble his forces. However, he suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of the Greeks in 480 BCE. After this setback, Xerxes seemed to retreat into the luxury of his court and harem. The later Achaemenid rulers indulged in extravagant lifestyles and court intrigues, distancing themselves from the traditional behaviors of their predecessors like Cyrus. Over time, the Persian Empire began to decline. Satraps, appointed to govern provinces, carved out their own power bases. Inflation rose as taxes increased, and the multicultural nature of the empire became a challenge, leading to an army with diverse troops, languages, and traditions. In 401 BCE, Cyrus the Younger attempted a coup against his brother Artaxerxes II, with the aid of 10,000 Greek mercenaries. Although the coup failed, the Greek mercenaries returned home and shared information about Persia, laying the groundwork for Alexander the Great's future conquest. The Persian Empire was the first significant empire, with a well-organized structure for governing diverse subject peoples. It set the example for future empires, including the Romans and the British. When Alexander sought to replace the dying Persian Empire, he had the example of Cyrus as a model in his mind.